Hi to the Ho Drinkerinos. Welcome to another episode of the Idaho Booze Podcast with me, Steve Kuntz. Today's episode is a lot of fun as we welcome Will Wetmore in from Veer Wine Project. We talk all about how he's veering away from the competition with his amazing little label. You might not know about his wine project, but it is gathering a lot of attention around the state in the form of awards and recognition, so I think you'll really enjoy meeting Will. I also review a couple of his wines in Friday Night Pints, plus some bad brew news, all coming up this week on the Idaho Booze Podcast. This week's Warren Reserve Cocktail of the Week originally comes to us from Warren Reserve, but I made a couple of tweaks. So this is the Midnight Martini. The ingredients are 2 ounces of vodka, 1.5 ounces cold brew coffee liqueur, ½ ounce of Warren Reserve burnt sugar syrup, 3 dashes Warren Reserve coffee pecan bitters, and some cinnamon. And if you want to use an egg white, you can use an egg white as well. If you are using that egg white, go ahead and throw that in the shaker first and give us about 6 or 7 dry shakes, no ice in there. This emulsifies the egg white, giving it a smooth, frothy texture before adding the ice and everything else. So next, and if you're not doing an egg white, you just start right here. Add the bitters and syrup along with the ice. Then add your vodka and coffee liqueur. Now look, you can use Kahlua. If you want to be basic, you can use Bailey's. But I recommend something called Mr. Black Coffee Liqueur. It is basically cold brew black coffee with alcohol. So none of the cream you get from Bailey's of Kahlua, but all of the coffee flavor. I really do recommend that Mr. Black. Stuff is good. Shake that up for about a minute or until the outside of the shaker is ice cold and strain into a chilled martini glass. Sprinkle a little cinnamon on top and serve. There you have it. If you have an idea for the Warren Reserve Cocktail of the Week, send it on in, idahoboozepod@gmail.com. If we pick your cocktail, then you will win a prize pack of amazing bitters and syrups from Warren Reserve. This show brought to you by Warren Reserve Cocktail Company. Looking to spice things up in the cocktail department? Try adding a little taste of chili to your next cocktail with Chili Lime Bitters from Warren Reserve. Just 2 drops will give your old-fashioned, whiskey sour, or margarita just the right amount of zing to warm you up in these cold winter months. Want to feel the burn? Just add another 2 drops. Chili Lime Bitters turn a simple Bloody Mary into a beautiful spicy Bloody without adding more mix or booze. Just a couple of drops of Chili Lime Bitters will do ya. Get Chili Lime Bitters at warrenreserve.com, order online, get free delivery, plus save 15% on orders over $40 with my promo code IdahoBooze25 at checkout. That's warrenreserve.com, IdahoBooze25 at checkout. Save tons of money on awesome bitters from Warren Reserve Cocktail Company. It's time for some brew news. Sad news to report, I'm afraid, from Boise, where another brewery is calling it quits. Clairvoyant Brewing in downtown Boise has decided to hang it up. After about 8 years of brewing beer, Clairvoyant opened up as a neighborhood brewery and pub back in 2017, made it all the way through the pandemic, and even opened up a second location at one point, but in a message on Facebook announced its upcoming closure. So for all those wanting to get down there for one last beer, the doors will stay open until March 31st, so you have another couple months to get down there. Ryan and Mike, the owners, also say at the end of their announcement that if anybody's interested in purchasing a brewery, to hit them up as well. I really feel for these guys. Last time I went over there, it was a lot of fun. There were a lot of neighborhood people hanging out on the patio and inside. There was a game night thing going on in one corner and a quartet of some kind practicing in the other, some band or something. So the vibe was very eclectic, which I like in a pub, like an eclectic vibe. I imagine that winters are hard on them because the seating outside is limited. So that might have contributed to this. The head brewer, Sean Pletcher, he's an old buddy of mine from his days at Slanted Rock. So I hate to see him, such a talented brewer, go through this again. And my take on the closure is pretty simple. I'm just not sure the brewpub model works in Boise unless you have a crazy amount of seating or a restaurant or like one killer beer that just everyone has to have. I mean, these are kind of the way brewpub works. Even with a restaurant, it's tough. Edge went out of business with a kick-ass restaurant and beers in grocery stores. So who knows? I have no idea. I would say that Clairvoyant, when it opened its second location at the old county line spot in Garden City, they were trying to expand to create more income, as opposed to expanding because of demand. And that's a dangerous bet to make. On one hand, they probably, got tons of great response from their regulars and other guests at the pub, but never really got to see what the market thought of them because they never released anything into cans or bottles or did that much distribution. So if you're going to expand, it should come from the market and not just from your own sort of wanting to be bigger. You really have to see it come from the mountain from the market first if you're going to do it that way. And the expansion came and went, and now they've announced the closure at the original location. So, it is what it is. It's kind of one of those things. I don't think the beer was bad or anything like that. In fact, last time I was there, I had a couple of beers that were quite tasty. I just don't think they put it out there enough to really test the waters before making the decision to expand. So best of luck to you guys, Ryan, Mike, Sean, and all your future endeavors. Let us know if we can help with anything. It's a tough business, and I'm afraid to say this probably won't be the last Idaho brewery to close before the summer. Whew, tough. Sucks for them. Sorry for you guys. And sucks for everyone who loves Clairvoyant. A lot of people there. Like I said, nice little neighborhood pub. So sorry to everyone involved. In other brew news, it looks like Burt's Brewing is putting out sours now with the release of Bell Bottom Boogie. This is a fruited kettle sour, and they're going to be hustling towards storage shelves in a couple of weeks. We'll be on tap at the pub in Garden City. Burt's first Bell Bottom Boogie will be a cherry sour. And then after that, they're going to do a raspberry sour in April, and then they have a full calendar of them you can go check out at their website. This beer is brewed with all natural fruit puree and no artificial flavors or coloring, so it's good. And we'll be sure to grab some of that in the next week or two from our friends at Burt's and let you know if this beer can boogie. Mother Earth putting out its first Project X release of 2025 with Cosmic Dissonance. This mind-bending brew features Galaxy, Simcoe, Sabro, and this hop called Superdelic. Far out. Combo is said to be a true sensory overload. Sure. You can find this at both Mother Earth tap rooms and in cans around town. I guess I don't know. Also, it is your last chance to get tickets to Destination Beer. I cannot stress to you enough how fun this event is and how nice it'll be to get back up there in the mountains and enjoy a beer festival. Bring your skis. Yeah, go to Destination Beer Saturday, ski Sunday, go Friday, ski Saturday. I don't know. Figure it out. Tickets are on sale through IBU, and you can find a link to that in my show notes. No football on this week, so what's your excuse? Destination Beer tickets on sale now from Idaho Brewers United. It's going to do it for Brew News. Coming up next, we veer into the Snake River Valley wine region with Will Wetmore from Veer Wine Project. I went out to his Caldwell winery to discover a hidden gem of a winery that is doing its best to veer away from the competition. I found Will's wines to be unique and fun while still being approachable and quite delicious, including there's a couple we try during the interview that are really, really good. He talks all about his journey, how he got to Veer, and how Veer is doing things a little bit differently out there in Caldwell. And they also have a new place opened up in Garden City as well, the old Parterre, so you can check that out. That interview is next right here on the Idaho Booze Podcast. This week's Brew News brought to you by Like Button. You, a multifaceted entrepreneur newly invested in a struggling startup, needs organic and paid growth through lead generation marketing, but you're on your own and can't yet afford a marketing department or a big agency. What do you do? Go to likebutton.us and pick from several package options that utilize organic social media marketing, paid Google ads, SEO strategy, and more for just a fraction of what you would pay a fully staffed marketing department. For as little as $2,000 a month, you get amazing results and boost your new business to greater heights. Go to likebutton.us today and start growing your business with Like Button. Welcome back to the Idaho Booze Podcast. I'm your host, Steve Kuntz, here with Will Wetmore from the Veer Wine Project. Will, how are we doing today?
I'm doing awesome.
Awesome. Oh, That's great to hear. We're here at your Caldwell winery, I guess I would call this.
Yeah, we call it our cellar door or production facility.
Facility. Yeah. Okay.
It's where we make the wine, and we have a teeny tiny little tasting room in the front.
Nice. And so this is we're out here kind of just away from downtown Caldwell, kind of in an industrial area, which is perfect for anyone that wants to open a winery or brewery or whatever, because you can get trucks in and out very easily.
That is one of the major conveniences.
And so go ahead and tell me a little bit about your company, Veer Wine Project, and kind of how it started and how you came to be here today.
Yeah, okay. So 2016, I bought my first little bit of fruit. I made about 100 cases and sold it to friends and family. Did that for a few years, just made a little bit of wine, sold to friends and family. 2018, me and my wife went and moved to New Zealand for a year-ish. And I worked at a winery there, learned a little bit more. And when we came back, I wanted to actually make my Veer Wine Project more than a little project and make it a real company. So we worked on getting our own production space, which we got in 2020, and little tasting room, which opened in 2021, and got our first grape contracts. And that, our first real year as a business was 2021. We made about 15 tons of fruit, maybe close to 1,000 cases. And since then we've grown. We were the Idaho winery to watch in 2021. And then in 2024, last year, we opened a tasting room in Garden City, and we were named the Idaho Winery of the Year. Won some cool awards, got some nice regional recognition, and have just kind of increased production. And yeah, it's been kind of a quick rise.
A meteoric rise. So you came out here, and you originally I met you when you worked at Cloud9, right? You were working there, doing some serving work and helping them brew and stuff like that, right? Yeah. So you had a little bit of a hand in some brewing. Yeah. You got some bona fides there. A little bit. So then you go to New Zealand, you come back, and you hook up with Hat Ranch, right?
So if we back up, 2014 I met you. I was at Cloud9. Bartending and brewing a little bit on the weekends for them. At that time, I got hired at Hat Ranch Winery, which is a winery out in Caldwell, just to help out with harvest. They needed help, and I was trying to get into the industry.
Yeah, to be the keg cleaner and the hose driver.
I knew how to drive a forklift, which is the number one thing that they need.
Yeah, everybody needs a guy like that.
So I just came out, and I just kept showing up and learning more, and then in 16, the owners let me start making some of my own wines.
Nice. And how old were you about this?
Let's see. 2014, I would have been 28.
There you go.
Yeah, 28.
So at the precocious young age of 28, you're wanting to make wine. What was your sort of inspiration for wanting to make wine? Because I don't think everybody at 28 is like, I want to make wine. I think it's one of those things that you either grow up with or something that maybe you find later. I don't really know.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of small things that probably led me down that path. I grew up in Northern California. My parents worked at wineries when I was little, so there's kind of this nostalgia that I get when I walk in the cellar and smell barrels.
Yeah.
It's oh yeah, I remember this when I was 4, running around the cellar in Russian River.
Yeah.
But then when I went to school, I was studying biology. And my academic advisor was a home brewer, actually, and kind of showed me and my roommates how to brew beer. And so we made shitty beer in our apartment. And but it was fun. It's we made this and we can drink it. And so there's kind of this
it's true.
This evolution of, okay, I want to make my own beer, and I want to have my own restaurant. I want to have a brew pub. And that was kind of always the dream. But then reality sets in. You're oh no, you need money, and you need investors, and you need all these things.
This is true.
It's not just wanting it or liking something. It's not going to make a business. So I after college, I met my wife in college. So she got into medical school at University of Washington, and when we moved to Seattle, I was driving a truck in downtown Seattle for a construction supply company, and on the weekends I was bussing tables at a wine bar down the street. And so I'd say, my 2 years out of college, that was my real first exposure to fine wine as opposed to $2 Chuck.
Yeah.
And so I was still making beer in our apartment, but I started to get curious about wine. And when we moved to Idaho, started drinking Idaho wines and saw how the industry was growing here. Mm-hmm. And my wife's from Boise. That's kind of why we ended up back here.
Makes sense.
But my father-in-law is still really into wine, and was really interested in the local wineries. So he'd share their stories and the wines, and it was cool. And so when I had the opportunity to to kind of do what I wanted to do after my wife finished medical school, I was able to join, a winery that was just getting established and, grow with them for quite a long time.
And what is it about a wine as opposed to beer that drew it to you? How are you drawn more to wine than maybe beer or spirits or something like that?
Yeah, there is a lot of creativity in beer, but I think there's also a lot of, you kind of need to, once you develop a recipe, nail it every time. And I am a little bit, I like to be a little more creative and constantly change. Like, that's why we call it Veer Wine Project. I'm constantly saying, tweaking stuff, or like, I want to try this, I want to try that. So I think that I really liked about wine over beer, even though I probably drink more beer than wine still to this day. And then also the seasonality of wine I really like. You get this intense harvest period where you work, 70 days straight. And then you kind of have like a little downtime in the winter, and then you're bottling, and then you're, prepping for the next year. So there's this cool like cycle where when I was brewing beer, it's like every Saturday you're brewing beer,
Yeah.
So I think that would get boring really quick. So like for me, my ADD brain, I get to burn out on winemaking or like, harvest. And then by the time it rolls around next year, I forgot how hard it is. And I get to do it again. So there's a seasonality, which I think suits my personality.
So what year was this last harvest? Is your first year doing it for Veer, second year, third year? What year are we in for Veer?
Technically 10.
Oh, wow.
But because I made a little bit of wine
because you were
in
making wine for like
2016.
friends and family. And
Yeah,
stuff
but we had the brand. We came up with the brand back in 2016. So like our original bottlings are Veer Wine Project. But since we got our own space and really kind of ramped things up, this is probably like I would say our third real vintage.
And
or fourth, so 21, 22, 23, 24.
How many labels did you start with versus how many do you have now?
Yeah. The beginning, it was like 2 or 3 wines a year, and they weren't always the same. They'd be different year to year, whatever I could like scrounge grapes wise.
Yeah.
But once we got our own like contracts, those are multi-year contracts. We've hovered around 10 wines a year, 10 SKUs, something like that.
And where do your grapes come from?
Snake River Valley, so Idaho, or we get some from a vineyard in Adrian, which is still part of our Snake River Valley AVA. So yeah, mainly here. This past year, I did buy a couple tons of Cabernet from Red Mountain in Washington.
Tasty.
My father-in-law really loves Cab from Red Mountain, so I said, if you buy me the grapes, I'll make it.
Oh, nice.
So
yeah, thanks, Dad.
Yeah.
Red Mountain's fantastic. I've had a lot of wines from there, being a Walla Walla fan. Yeah. So I really like their Cab. Their Syrah, I think, is also pretty amazing, and I want to say their Grenache too. So you now do what did you say, 4 or 5 bottles now?
No, we do. I do 5 whites, 5 reds.
Okay,
roughly.
So you have 10.
Yeah, about 10 each
year.
So
let's walk through the whites really quick. Right now, we have a white in front of us that we're sipping on.
Yeah.
It's very nice. I like how it kind of has like a cloudiness to it.
Yeah, so this is just a tank sample. This is Chenin Blanc.
I'm getting some apple and pear in there. Mm-hmm. Just walk us through this wine really quick.
Well, this is my first time making Chenin Blanc. So honestly, it's kind of like an experiment for me. Not an experiment, but just
maybe
kind
a project.
See what it can do and what I like about it. Kind of learned a little bit about it this year. So it was. I thought it was going to be like riper a little bit earlier, but it was actually one of the last whites I picked. And after a lot of our reds, even, and it was still only came in at about 21 bricks, just under 21 bricks, so pretty low sugar.
Bricks is the amount of sugar.
Yeah.
That's in the,
yeah.
And what's the fluid called that wine? Is it just wine, just juice?
Just juice, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so we'll take a grape sample and either do a hydrometer or we have a density meter, which is really sweet.
Hydrometer works.
Yeah. So 21 bricks, it's not super high. It's nice. It makes 21 bricks will make like a crisp white wine. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of what Chenin Blanc style I'm going for.
I like the innate sourness of it. I like how it's like it kind of stays on the back of the palate a little bit, but the most of it just kind of breaks off.
Yeah.
So yeah, tell us about it. Tell what kind of, is it Chenin Blanc? Is that the grape?
Chenin Blanc's the grape variety.
Okay.
So yeah, this will be, we'll bottle it up as a unoaked style, so this kind of crisp style. And then I did put a portion in some new French barrels, which I'll make a separate bottling of as well. So this will be a great summer wine.
Yeah, for sure. And when will this come out?
Well, we have our spring release in April, so I need to have it ready by then.
Nice.
So I got to bottle it.
Get the bottles ready.
Months.
And then what other whites do you guys have here?
So this year we did Chenin Blanc, which we have a contract for. We do a Riesling. We do it in a dry style. We also do it in a skin fermented style, so fermenting the Riesling grapes on the skins, which is more of a red wine technique.
Mm-hmm. Is that like an orange wine?
Yep.
Okay.
We also do Sauvignon Blanc, and again, we'll split that into barrel fermented and tank fermented.
And what kind of difference of flavor are you looking for there between the barrel and the tank?
Just complexity. A lot of the primary flavors are going to be the same, but there's going to be these other components. And the barrels I use for white wines, it's almost hard to tell that there's oak on them. They're very lightly toasted, but they'll just kind of add this extra dimension or structure.
So it's not like that kind of butter. Is it that kind of buttery flavor, or are we looking more like a vanilla-y kind of?
Not even.
None of those things.
Yeah, it's very subtle. It's more of a spice.
Okay. All right.
I should have. If we take a break, I'll go pull a sample of the Chenin Blanc that's in barrel.
There's no breaks here. We are going. This is not stopping. The tape is rolling.
Well, maybe we're done.
We can take a break.
Let's see.
Sauvignon
Blanc, Chenin Blanc, Riesling, and then Chardonnay. And again, Chardonnay, I split it into barrel fermented and tank. Every year, I don't know if I'm going to keep them separate or blend them together. Since I'm adding Chenin Blanc to our lineup, which is another like crisp white, Sauvignon Blanc's crisp white, I'll probably do the Chardonnay as more of a barrel style, just because.
Yeah, so that buttery.
So yeah, instead of having like 3 crisp whites, I can have at least one that's got a little more butter.
When Valerie comes in here to try your Chardonnay, then she'll have that kind of Kendall Jackson oaky buttery.
Not as pronounced as that, but it'll be more on that style.
Nice.
I think that's it this year for white. Oh, and I'm going to do a white blend. So we're going to do a Chenin Blanc based blend as well.
Cool.
So I don't know exactly what it's going to be, but probably Chenin Blanc, Sauvignon Blanc, and maybe that's it, or maybe a splash.
And all those grapes come from right back here, right?
All from Skyline Vineyard, just
nice.
20 miles from here.
Cool. And so you're able to go out there and kind of check the grapes.
Yeah. And I have really good relationships with the growers, so they'll call me, hey, come check out your Sauvignon Blanc. Let us know what you think. But
nice.
They're way better at growing grapes than I am, so I'm like, whatever you think.
Let them do it. Yeah. And how about your reds? We have one here. This is Tresse.
Tresse, yeah. This is our GSM, so it's a blend of Grenache, Syrah, and Mourvedre. It's this was a double gold at a Walla Walla wine competition, and then it was most recently it won a double platinum and got 97 points. So it's one of our top rated wines. And
so I've been able to have some GSMs in Madet, and this one really pops, like the cherry flavor from the Grenache, I imagine, and it just has a really nice bouquet on it too. Mm-hmm. Go ahead and walk us through this one.
Yeah, so this is 40% Grenache, 36 Syrah, and 24 Mourvedre. A lot of GSMs that people make are typically a higher percent of Grenache. So this one's kind of like a little bit richer because there's a higher percentage.
Well, they should be doing them like this, right? Double platinum, everything else.
So it's got that. I get more like strawberry for Grenache, and then some pepper and spice from the Syrah and kind of some earthiness.
I retract the cherry. I did mean strawberry.
Cherry is in every red wine. It's very. Oh, that's cherry.
No, it's got a lot of strawberry. It's nice. It's really it's fruity, but without being sweet. It's got a very nice dryness to it. What attributes to that dryness?
Mainly, it's just how much residual sugar is left in it, and then how much tannin. So tannins are what kind of dry your mouth out, but it can dry your mouth out and have residual sugar, so it's not.
He's doing that thing that all the winery people do, where he puts his like thumb and forefinger around his mouth and makes a motion like his palate is tasting
Like you're eating peanut butter.
Yeah,
or something.
like you're eating. Yeah, exactly. This is what every single vintner does. They do this thing, and what he's trying to explain is there's a toothiness almost to it, to the tannins, right? Like it comes in the back of your palate, and it kind of coats to the middle of your palate, and gives it almost like a. It's almost like a. I don't want to say anything negative, but it's almost like a carpet, almost kind of.
Yeah,
like,
it's very just dry.
It's
almost
dry.
itchy.
Yeah, it's itchy. Exactly.
And then you need a bite of something like with a lot of fat to reset it, and that's why wine's so good at pairing with things, right?
This is your double platinum, double gold.
And also was won best red at the Idaho wine competition as well. Best red blend, sorry.
Awesome. And so this is great. Tresse is what this is called.
Yeah. And
this is a 2022.
22, yeah. And so this is a blend of those three grapes, Grenache, Syrah, Mourvedre. So I make those all single variety as well.
Mm-hmm.
And those are kind of my main three grapes that I...
Do you have 100% Mourvedre?
Yes, I do. I mean, I have a splash of Syrah on it, but it's a varietal. Yeah,
okay.
Cool. That one won Best of Show at the Cascadia wine
and so
competition.
that peppery comes from the Syrah, right? Like,
yeah, it's peppery from the Syrah. You can get a little bit of spice from barrel too.
Mm-hmm.
And also Mourvedre has some pepper. To me, it's like more of a white pepper, which is a stinky pepper, in my opinion.
No, I know what you mean. Yeah, sure.
But the black pepper is kind of more of the Syrah. And
black pepper almost like sort of fruitier.
Mm-hmm.
And the white pepper is more of that what you're expecting, like the pepper kind of.
Yeah, and so like I get a lot of like white pepper on the Rhone varieties.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, those are my three favorite grapes, and that's why I kind of make the GSM. I do those all varietal, and then each year I'll add.
And then you have a cab. Is your cab this year?
I did cab in 22, but again, it's those aren't contracts, so it's more of a spot buy.
Yeah.
So I'll try it for a year, see if people like it, but I don't want to base my like core wines around other things. Syrah, Grenache, Mourvedre, and then maybe bring in Tempranillo for a year, or Cab for a year, or Barbera.
So that's kind of a thing that we've talked about with other wineries and vintners around here, is that the Snake River Valley sort of mimics the Rhone Valley, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so what other kind of wines can you expect to come out that you would be interested in making?
I've always been interested in Spanish varieties.
Mm-hmm.
Northern Spain's pretty similar as well. And there's all kinds of like Spanish varieties that are not Tempranillo that would be kind of fun for somebody to plant.
Grenache to me sounds Spanish.
Yeah. So Grenache is like the French name or the U.S. name, but Garnacha is a Spanish name for it. So I actually call my varietal Grenache Garnacha.
Okay.
And same with my Mourvedre, I call it Mataro, which is a different name, same grape.
Okay.
I'm sure there's one for Syrah, but I don't know what it is off the top of my head.
Probably just Syrah.
It's probably Syrah, yeah. But yeah, I think some kind of cool Spanish varieties. There's one called Mencia that I've always wanted to try.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's the kind of the blessing about Idaho. We don't have a signature grape variety yet.
Yeah, not yet.
So there's people that are always kind of exploring or trying stuff.
So that's an interesting topic because we've talked about it with I think with Joe Schnur from Cinder.
Yeah.
Was finding that sort of reason for tourists to come out here and finding that sort of like distinct thing. Like, I don't even know, what would you say is, okay, so Napa, their distinct thing is cab, right?
Yeah.
Walla Walla?
Syrah.
Is it Syrah? Okay.
I mean, that's what I associate.
It makes sense to me. Their Syrahs there's the Red Mountain Syrahs and all that. I like their Syrahs. I've told you before, I like their red blends. And I think that their cabs are okay, but they're not Napa cab. I mean, they're different.
Yeah.
So then, like, what other AVAs are out there? I mean, I know there's
Oregon's
New York one.
Oregon's known for Pinot,
right? Yeah.
New York I always like Riesling.
Sure. Germany, Riesling.
Yeah. So these regions kind of have their
Tuscany is like kind of those big Tuscan Reds, Barolo or whatever.
So I don't know. I mean,
so what do you think is, like, right now? What would you say is the signature grape of Snake River Valley?
If I would say I think the Rhone, Syrah, Grenache, Mourvedre are. I just don't think there's enough planted here yet. So it's like not everybody can make it.
What do you think the growers want it to be?
I don't know. I think it's a good question for
because you see this a lot with hops and like hop farmers and brewers. Like a million years ago, hop farmers wanted to grow Simcoe and Amarillo because it was easy to grow here. Yeah. It grows really well here. But the brewers were moving off of Simcoe and Amarillo, and they were moving towards Mosaic and Citra and other ones. Yeah. And so you had a disconnect between the hop growers and the brewers because the hop growers really wanted to grow this thing that they could grow easily, and the brewers really wanted to use this other thing that tasted really good. Right. So do you think there's that sort of disconnect between you guys and the growers? Or
no, I don't think so.
Are you guys pretty sympathetic?
I think you work so closely with the growers that I think you're usually on the same page. I know the growers sometimes grumble about certain varieties that are harder to farm, Yeah. So I think the growers in a perfect world would grow stuff that's easy to grow. Yeah. And easy to machine pick.
Chardonnay, right? They just grow Chardonnay.
So
that's what everyone says. Everyone says Chardonnay grows everywhere. Right?
Yeah. And I mean, just with working with Grenache the last few years, it seems it's not like super easy to work with. So maybe that's why there's not more of it planted. I think there's a lot of Tempranillo. I think Tempranillo could definitely be one of our signature grapes in Idaho.
Would we have to come up with a different name for it? Tempranillo sounds very Spanish. Yeah. Would we have to come up with maybe it's a russet grape?
Yeah, the potato red.
Or the Bronco grape.
The gems.
There's gem hops. Why can't we have a gem grape?
Gem grape. We'd have to probably register it with the federal government. Geminio.
Geminio? I don't know. We got to come up with something. I mean, we can solve the problem.
I think we can. And it's kind of funny because that you bring this up. I was meeting with a distributor or a buyer, and they're like, that was kind of one of the things they're lamenting about trying to sell Idaho wine in the region, regionally. It's like people don't. When they see Idaho, there's no brand associated with it. Like, oh, this means this is going to be really good Tempranillo, or this is going to be really good Grenache, or there's not that thing that they'll know about the region. They have to know the producer specifically. So,
well, I mean, let's think about though Idaho wineries in general. I mean, this kind of in general. I'm sure there's exceptions. I don't know them all yet. So it's the same thing with breweries. Breweries don't grow their own grain or their own hops or propagate their own yeast, right? For the most part. Some do. So is that in Napa, is it like the way it is here in Napa and in Walla Walla? I know in Walla Walla, a lot of the wineries there have their own vineyards. And in Napa, I'm sure that's true. Yep. So is that what needs to kind of happen here in order for that sort of grape to kind of bust out? Like, do we need more wineries that are actually growers as well, or do we need maybe a closer knit with the grower? I don't know, because it feels like this is something we've talked about now a couple times, and we really need to find out for marketing sake, which is something we all have to do. Yeah. What is that grape for Idaho?
Yeah,
I mean, what sells the best? I guess that's where I'd start.
I think Tempranillo sells really well. I think Riesling is also a signature grape for whites. It just doesn't sell great.
No.
So maybe we need to find
for a little bit.
Maybe we need to find something different.
Riesling was hot for a little bit. Yeah. Now it's kind of come back.
It should be Chenin Blanc and GSM because that's what I make.
Duh. Double platinum and a double gold and a best wine at Idaho. What was it? That girl?
Yeah.
Wine thing?
Red blend. No, I don't know. I mean, honestly, I don't know. I like making wine, and I try to bury my head in the sand and not think about everything else. But probably not a great strategy.
No, that's fine. That'll work just fine. So we're here at the Veer. Tell me about where you came up with the name Veer Wine Project. How's the project going? Yeah. Does the project have a beginning and an end? How is it going here? And where did you come up with the name Veer Wine Project?
Yeah. So originally Veer Wine Project was, I was veering off. I was making something different than I had when I was working and making wine with other people. So I was like, okay, I'm going to veer. I'm going to try different things, different winemaking techniques that I've never seen or done before, maybe I've heard of. And then I wanted to call it a project because I was like, I'm not a winery. I'm just a guy trying to learn about wine.
Mm-hmm.
So it was like my own little self-education project, right? So that's where it started. And I think, people like the wines and they're like, oh, this is cool. What'd you do? And they were interested in like the techniques and, what I was kind of the process more than the result, I guess.
What would you say are some techniques that you use that are veering away from other
traditional? I do a lot more like barrel ferments on my whites.
Oh.
A lot of people do barrel ferments, but I do a lot more of them. Barrel ferment rosé. I do a lot of.
Oh, you have rosé?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep, I do a lot of natural ferments where I don't add a commercial yeast and just kind of
brave.
Just see what happens.
That's brave.
I know.
You are out here amongst there are a lot of farms out here.
The crazy thing is though, like, I've made wines that I like more than others, but the wines that seem to just ferment the best and just are simple are the wild ferments. They take a long time to start and then they just figure it out and they go.
You can't beat the cell count, right?
It's cheap, it's a lot cheaper.
Cheap. Yeah. Sorry, White Labs or whoever else.
Yeah.
It is a lot cheaper to just put it out in the open and let it ferment that way.
Well, and the cool thing about wine is since it comes in kind of, like week by week, you're bringing in stuff. You get a red wine going with a wild ferment, just throw a little bit out, and the next one that comes in, kind of.
Do you have any of that to try here right now?
Wild ferment stuff?
Yeah.
Yes. There's wild ferment probably in like all my wines.
Sure.
I'd have to.
That's brave.
I'll pull some.
That's brave. I like it. So you're doing some wild ferments.
Yeah.
You do some barrel ferments.
Skin contact whites as well.
Mm-hmm.
I've been playing around with hyperoxidation, so intentionally oxidizing juice before you ferment it.
Wow. What kind of flavor profiles are you hoping to get out of that? Because in brewing, that would be a lot of negative.
Crazy, right? I know. Basically, what you're doing is you're oxidizing the wine before it's wine.
Mm-hmm.
So you oxidize it, and then when you ferment it, the yeast uses up all that oxygen that's already dissolved.
Yeah, in beer it can turn into off flavors. So what does it do in wine?
In theory, and I haven't noticed this yet, but it can actually make a wine that's more color stable because you've oxidized the pigments that are going to oxidize already.
Yeah, you're jumping ahead.
Yeah, so they say I don't know that the wine if it was on the shelf for longer would stay less it wouldn't brown as quickly.
Yeah. It makes sense to me.
But I just try these things because first of all, I want to see in practice how it works. Mm-hmm. And at the end of the day, if it's only a small percentage of what I'm doing, it can add a cool blending component. So like the first Riesling or the Riesling I did in 23, we did that. We did, I made of my Riesling, 85% was whole, pressed, protected from oxygen, fermented in tank, pretty classic. Mm-hmm. And then that other 15% I did an orange wine out of, let it be on skins for 2 months, and pressed it and then aged it separately. And then when I was getting ready to bottle, just did some blending trials. Like, okay, what's 95% of the traditional Riesling with 5% the hyperox for the skin contact stuff, and then landed about 10%. I was like, well, let's do 10% of the orange wine back into the regular Riesling. It just builds flavors, mm-hmm. right?
Yeah. So you're just. This is just like, what a brewer will do with, mm-hmm. When they're blending different barrels or whatever. You're just taking different components of different sort of ferments that you have and seeing how they play with each other, right?
Yeah, yeah, and yeah. So I think getting back to the name, now it's just a reminder to kind of keep that mentality.
No,
right?
that's
so
good.
It's a reminder to veer.
I like that.
So don't be afraid to try something you haven't done.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid to throw something out. It's like, it didn't work. So it kind of keeps me. Yeah, I've had a couple of thoughts like, I could just do this; it'd be easier. I'm like, no, you gotta do something a little bit different, right? So it's just kind of reminds you you have to,
right? Before we do take a break, let's talk about the orange wine really quick because this is something that's caused some derision.
Yeah,
and I'm happy to say that I'm a proponent. I'm in on it.
Yeah,
I think it's neat. I think it's different. It wasn't what I thought it was going to be. I thought it was actually wine made out of oranges.
Yeah,
the first time I tried it.
If you put orange wine on a wine label, it's technically has to be made out of oranges.
Does it?
Yeah, it's not. It's not a technical name. It's actually amber wine is how they classify it.
Amber wine. So I was at Parcero, and that's where I first had it.
Yeah.
And my wife, who is a white wine fan, disgusted by it.
Yeah.
So let's convince my wife why she should be into orange wine and what orange wine is and what flavor profiles you're looking to get out of it.
Oh man, I don't want to convince her to like it.
No, let's do it. Let's get her.
I think there's just the hard thing with orange wines, they can just vary so wildly.
Yeah.
I've made.
Well, they're made with different grapes, right?
Different grapes.
There's ones that are Sauvignon Blanc. There's ones that are Riesling. There's ones that are, I guess, Chardonnay. I don't know. I've never seen any Chardonnay.
Yeah. Like I've done Gewürztraminer.
Oh yeah.
I've done Riesling a couple times now. Those are the only two I've really played with, but I've played around with time or the time that they spend on the skins. So I've done up to 6 months.
Back up just a little bit.
Sure.
What is it? Like, what is orange wine? How is it different than just a regular white wine?
So regular white wine is typically the majority of its fermentation is going to be away from the skins. The skins have
just the juice.
Yeah, just the juice. Where the skins are going to have like they'll have some pigment, component because white wine is not made from grapes that look that pale, right? They're golden or green, right? So there is some color in there. So you'll get a little bit of color.
Yeah.
You'll have more oxygen exposure, typically if you're doing like punch downs and mixing up the grape skins.
Yeah.
You'll get more bitter components, tannins. So
tannins come from the skins. Right?
Yeah. So there's a lot, and the stem. So I've done skin contacts with just whole berries. I've done whole cluster for 6 months, and that one was rough.
Okay. What do you mean by rough?
It was just so astringent.
Oh, really?
Just sitting on stems.
Is there an amount of contamination that happens when you do that? Because it's not like the juice, which is fermented and basically like perfect. It's now you're introducing these stems and everything else.
It's been how do you think they made wine when they couldn't take the grapes off the stems?
I'm with you.
Yeah. So
and red wine is made on the skins.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then but also like you can add the people call it whole cluster, right? When you do a whole cluster fermentation, you're leaving the stems in there.
Okay.
And I do that. I do it a lot with actually like these 3 varieties, Grenache, Syrah, Mourvedre, because you can add a little bit of spice, a little bit of tannin.
Sure.
So it's like more flavor.
So we're just looking at basically making a white wine like a red wine.
A little bit, yeah. And
you just have to taste, right?
You taste
to see
it
when it gets to be, so it doesn't be a little rough.
Yeah. But sometimes it just happens anyways.
Yeah. But this is
but
something
then you can blend it.
So this is kind of hot right now, right? Like this is sort of a new thing, this orange wine.
It's a
newer.
I think people are
discovering.
It's an old winemaking technique.
Yeah.
Because
reds are made like that.
And like, you didn't have the option a long time ago to destem or press the grapes whole cluster.
Right.
You had to
put it all in there,
ferment them or pick them up.
I feel like white wine drinkers they want something that's like so a lot of white wine drinkers will drink like Sauvignon Blanc or Pinot Grigio because they like how crisp it is, clean.
Yeah.
And so this is kind of taking that idea and turning it over on its head a little bit and adding more of that tannin, more of that kind of like you said, flavor to a wine that's supposed to be sort of like a Riesling is like crisp, clean, sweet. So now you're kind of taking that Riesling and you're giving it a little bit more body, right?
Yeah. You can be, flavor, body. I had a thought and it just completely escaped me.
Sorry.
But yeah, they're just different, and I think people that enjoy them, what I've kind of just, anecdotally noticed, red wine drinkers that I don't like white wine, they'll be like, oh, this is kind of cool.
Yeah.
And then also like a lot of craft beer people.
Yeah.
Really like orange wines.
Yeah. I like it. I think they're good. I think they're neat.
Yeah.
But I like whites though. I like Frizzante, like Italian whites, and I like crisp, like this Chenin Blanc is right up my alley.
Yeah.
I like Pinot Grigio, like stuff like that. I don't like the kind of oaky, buttery ones. So the orange wine to me, when I tried it, I was like, yeah, this is like a nice like kind of compromise. But my wife is just dead set against.
I mean, I made the first one I made is like it's kind of funky, and then the other one I made is like it was really astringent, and then the last one I did, like the one I made this year, it just almost tastes like a normal Riesling.
And do you bottle these? Are they bottled?
I've only done it 2, like by themselves. The last couple of years, I blended the Riesling back in with the regular Riesling.
Okay.
Like last year, I took some of my skin ferment Riesling and blended it with a little rosé, which I've been really liking to play with. I made like 6 cases of it. I don't know what I'm gonna do with it.
I gotta try.
I want to have a flea market for wine one day where it's like, I made this.
It's a fantastic idea. It's a fantastic idea. You can do it here.
Just handwrite the labels. Like, this one's this.
TTB probably will not enjoy that
label.
as much.
I'll make a real label.
Figure it out.
Just like a shipping label.
We'll figure out
with all the relevant information.
The legal part of it, we'll figure out. All right, we're going to take a short break. Thank you so much for having me here today, Will.
Yeah.
We're having a great time. We're drinking some wines. We're going to come right back. And we're going to drink a couple more wines, I think. And we're going to talk more about the Veer Wine Project here in Caldwell. So we'll be right back on the Idaho Booze Podcast. It is officially winter cabin season in Idaho, and there is no better place to stock up than Treasure Valley Chevron. TVC carries an amazing selection of craft beer, wine, hard seltzers, and other fun adult beverages that will turn a lazy weekend at the cabin into an epic mountain party. TVC also carries plenty of other essentials for mountain living, like propane, firewood, s'mores materials, and you might even find a cozy blanket. TVC has it all. Snap a picture of yourself picking up some cabin essentials at TVC. Win a free box of jerky from Old Wisconsin. Just send the picture to us at idahobooze@gmail.com to enter to win a huge box of jerky from Treasure Valley Chevron. Welcome back to the Idaho Booze Podcast. I'm your host, Steve Kuntz, here with Will Wetmore from Veer Wine Project. Will, still doing good?
Yeah, this is great. This is
all right. We are really into it now. I coerced Will into going out and grabbing some orange wine. So right now we are going to go through some orange wine. And Will, where are we starting here? We have 3 of them. Where are we starting?
So I brought 3 out, and I kind of wanted to highlight what I learned about orange wine with these 3.
Love it.
So let's start on the palest looking one.
Mm-hmm.
This was from 23. This was skin fermented Riesling, which I fermented with punch downs like a red wine, and then let it sit for 2 months on skins. So not that long.
So describe what that is, a punch down.
So when you have a fermentation, it releases CO2. The CO2 will lift the grapes up, and they'll make a float on the top.
Like they'll float on the top, yeah.
So if you just didn't do anything, the wine would be fermenting underneath without any contact on the skins. So you wouldn't
You're not getting what you want.
You wouldn't get the skins. So you got to mix them up, depending on what stage of the fermentation, you mix them up more or less. But also, if you don't break up the cap, it will trap heat and you can get it really hot ferment too.
Okay.
So mixing it up is important. So this one was wild ferment, punch downs once a day. And then once it was done fermenting, I sealed it up and gassed it and let it sit for 2 months.
And now I get very little orange on this.
Yeah, so this one's like I wouldn't say that the skin contact portion is not super prominent. So you can see it almost looks like a rosé.
It does.
And what we did with this one is
it's got a pinkish hue.
Yeah, so I took the majority of this, got blended into my regular Riesling, which won the best Riesling in Idaho wine competition.
What?
But I had like 15 gallons left of the skin contact stuff. So I mixed it with like 5 gallons of rosé.
Okay.
Because I've kind of like these combinations of skin contact Riesling with a little bit of rosé.
And this is your flea market wine.
This is my flea market wine, maybe. Or I'll do a wine club wine, I don't know. But it's very approachable. Like if you're like, this is funky, I wouldn't say it's funky at all.
There's definitely like, it tastes like a rosé at first. And then you get like this kind of like, I don't know how to really describe it. Sort of sour on the back end, but not really like sour, like sort of light. And then like there's a lot of really nice like white wine flavor in there too, I guess. So it's not like apple or pear, but it's like, it's in that range.
Yeah,
it's
got like the long finish, right?
It's like melon maybe?
Yeah, like melon. Could see that. Cantaloupe.
Yeah.
So so for orange wine,
I'd buy this at the flea market.
This is like very approachable orange wine.
Yeah.
Or amber wine. It's called
amber wine. I think it's really nice. The thing I like the most about it, it kind of has that rosé sort of feeling to it, but then you're also getting like, maybe there is like a little bit of like an orange zest back there. I think that's maybe where the sour comes from. It's like that orange zest kind of flavor. And then, some melon, cantaloupe, something like that.
And this is a 23, so this is only a couple of years old, a year old basically.
All right, well, put it in the box. Let's go grab a couple of those.
All right, and then this next one.
This is a 2021 Ren.
I feel like those got switched somehow, but maybe not.
No,
okay. Yeah, so this is the Ren. So this is the whole cluster Riesling. So this is whole cluster Riesling instead of just the berries. And this is 6 months.
That means the stem and the sticks and everything.
Yeah, so basically I sealed the tank up, put a lid on, didn't touch it for 6 months.
Oh, wow.
And then this one is the one when I pressed it, it was really astringent and really dry, really bitter. And so this is when I was like, I put some Riesling in it, or some rosé in it, just to kind of soften it up.
So what's the difference between this one and the other one that we just had?
This one's it's going to be way more tannic and astringent.
Yep.
More savory.
Yeah, it's that.
This one's cool because this one will taste better and better after a few days.
It's
just sitting
so
out.
Dry.
Yeah.
It is so dry that literally my tongue is vibrating. It's just very dry. It's got a really interesting flavor component to it. It's not as sour as it's not as orangey as that one.
No.
That cantaloupe or whatever that was is completely gone.
No, it's like spice.
What does it remind me of? It sort of reminds me of drinking lemonade because of it leaves that note on my palate, but it's not the flavor. It's just that feeling of drinking
sour,
a sour something, but it doesn't have the flavor of sour.
No.
It's
kind of
really
a mind trip.
I just don't drink Rieslings all that often, so I don't know what they're supposed to taste
I think this doesn't taste anything like Riesling. Now,
It's definitely cool.
It's cool wine.
Yeah, it's really cool. If I ordered this and got this at a place, I would be the first sip, I'd be like, what is going on here? And then I'd keep going back for more and more. I'd be like, yeah, I don't know about this orange wine. And then all of a sudden, they'd be like, you've had 3 glasses. I'd be like, I don't think so.
I got to figure this out still. That's the cool thing about
it's super drinkable.
It's super drinkable. And then this has got a few more years of aging on it.
I wouldn't mind this cold, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
A little chill on it.
All right.
So that one's cool.
Ren, 2021.
Right? And then, so now we're going all the way back to 19.
Oh, the Sauvage.
Sauvage. This is feral.
Are we going Sauvage?
I don't know.
Sauvage.
Sauvage. Whatever Johnny Depp says.
Did you say feral?
Feral. That's the name. Feral. And this was my first attempt at an orange wine.
2019.
Yep. So again,
it just says white wine on there because there was no name for orange wine back then.
Yeah, I didn't know what to name it. This is Gewürztraminer, so this is a different grape variety. So it's going to have different components, anyways. And this was whole cluster in tank, but for much less time, so only 30 days as opposed to 6 months.
So this one, just the aroma on it reminds me of a saison. This is like a saison beer.
Yeah.
I get pepper, horse blanket. I get a little bit of that funk.
Yeah, this is definitely the most funky of the three.
Like Belgian-y. I bet there's a good amount of bubblegum in there.
And this one actually does have a little bit of those kind of Riesling, or not Riesling, sorry, the Gewürztraminer aromas that kind of come through still.
Well, the flavors are not what I expected at all. This is much more muted than the last one. It's not as dry. First of all, it's very smooth.
And that could be there's a couple reasons why that would be. So this is.
Yeah, it smells like a sour beer.
This is almost 5 years. I mean, it's a 5-year-old wine now. So some of those kind of astringent components will kind of settle out.
Also super drinkable though. I mean, it's really kind of smooth, and it's got I would say there's more sort of muted flavors, kind of like what you normally would talk about with a white wine. Maybe it's a little bit of kind of a red apple, not a green apple. It's almost like a honey, whatever, the honey crisp or something like that. It's like one of those kind of red apples that aren't super sour or anything.
Yeah, and Gewürztraminer, when you compare it to Riesling, has a lot higher pH. It's got a lot less acid in it. So that's kind of why it's a little softer as well.
Like that, yeah.
But yeah, so that's the hard thing about getting somebody convinced to like orange wines, because we just had 3 and they all taste way different.
Way different. could not be more different. This one, the one that you said is most funky, the nose on it is insane.
Yeah.
And then when you taste it, you're just like, oh, okay, this tastes like sort of like a white wine, sort of like a red wine. It's kind of in between.
Yeah. And this was kind of funny because I'm looking at like our tasting notes when we barreled it. It was like grapefruit, jasmine, honey, orange, and pine.
Honey, I could totally see in there. Pine, I don't know about pine, but
so there's this, and we put on this feijoa, which is a fruit in New Zealand. Feijoa. It's really bizarre, but it's kind of this like citrusy, piney flavor. It's like when we first bought it, I was like, oh man, that's exactly what it tastes like. The pine, thankfully, has gone away. And I get a lot of, what else is on the tasting notes? We said back in 2020, grapefruit, jasmine, honey, orange.
The honey, definitely orange. Yeah, a little bit, but honey and the grapefruit for sure. It's really nice. It's different. It definitely is different. You've definitely veered in a different direction here.
Yeah, so these are the fun ones that, we don't pour them at the tasting room all that much, but if somebody's curious, I'm always down to do something like this with them.
I just keep looking for the pine because I can usually spot that really well because of all the beer stuff that I've had. But yeah, those are cool. So you just you decided back in 2019 that you would kind of do this just as another way to kind of do something different? Yeah,
it was like somebody was like, I got a little bit of grapes. Do you want them? I was like, yeah, sure, I'll try something with it. And this is before, again, I didn't have my own facility. So I was like, well, what can I do that's different? Well, just throw them in this tank and see what happens.
Yeah. I tell you what, it could come out worse for sure. They're totally different. All three of them are totally different. They're really fun. I think that there is room in any kind of wine region for stuff like this, right? Yeah. Like there are people out there that want something different.
Yep. Yeah.
Sure.
So I think it's kind of, you make now, since we were getting a little more established, we have our kind of core wines that we want to make each year. Maybe they won't taste the same each year, but people expect Grenache. But then each year, there's always something fun that I'll try.
Nice.
So
that's really cool.
Yeah.
And so you guys just opened up in Garden City a brand new tasting room.
Yeah.
Go ahead and tell us how. And it used to be Parterre. Is that who it was?
So it was Parterre before us, and before them it was Split Rail. Before they built their new facility down by the riverside. Mm-hmm. So we moved in March. So we had our grand opening in March, and
it's almost a year.
Yeah, not quite a year yet, and it's been cool because I live in Boise, so it's a lot closer to home for me. So that was the hard thing about having just the tasting room in Caldwell, and I have young kids. Like I couldn't just pop out to the winery for a little bit,
wrong or something like if there's an issue or whatever.
So the nice thing now is
someone calls in sick.
I'm 7 minutes from the winery, so I can pop in when my kids are napping, say hi to people, and pop back home. So that's been a lot nicer.
I'm also about 12 minutes away from the other winery too. Yeah. So if you need me to pop in or anything, just let me know. Yes. So you got this brand new tasting room. It's right next to our good friends at Ruckus Brewing.
Oh man, they got
You're right there in that kind of in that same area. I don't know what is across the street.
What is across the street?
Veterans or something like that.
We're 44.
Yeah,
between 43rd and 44.
There you go. So tell us about the tasting room. Tell us about kind of your night to night deal there. Are there do you have trivia? Do you do anything like that? Like what's going on in there?
So we're open Wednesday through Sunday. Open at 1 each day. Close at 7. And
hear that, day drinkers? Get out there now. 1 o'clock.
The best time to go if you want to go taste wine is just Wednesday, Thursday afternoon.
Yeah.
You can. You might be the only one in there, and you'll just have as much wine nerding out as you want.
I'm doing that right now. I feel
let's see. We try to have a little more events here and there. Like we're doing this year, we're going to do First Friday. So every first Friday, we'll stay open till 8:30 or 9.
Is this a Garden City thing?
No, this is our own thing.
You guys are just
I think Garden City does have a First Friday, but they keep it on the other side of Veterans.
Oh, wow.
So we're outside of that. So we're going to do our own First Fridays.
You're on the wrong side of Veterans.
I know. So this first one we're going to do like a winemaker tasting. And what we're going to do is we're going to pour some of these older wines and just kind of nerd out a little bit on wine.
When is that going to happen?
The First Friday. So February 6th.
February 6th, okay.
And then each Friday, or for each first Friday, will be something different. We'll do like live music. One of them. We'll do.
Well, I tell you what, just
event. I don't know.
Something.
We'll make it up.
Send me an email. Let me know what you're doing, like on Tuesday, and I'll make sure we talk about it on Friday.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we'll do the first Fridays this year. Right now, the Idaho Wine Commission's doing these wine winter weekends.
Shout out.
Yeah.
By the way, Ashley Struble, shout out.
Yeah.
She's great.
So last weekend was this festive fireside, and so we had an electric s'mores maker so people can make their own s'mores. The next one is the big game weekend. So we'll do, I don't know what we're going to do, discounts for people that wear their sports ball jerseys.
Yeah.
And we'll probably stay open for the game on Sunday.
Yeah.
And then there's a couple more, but you can check any of the websites. They'll have them.
Cool. What's the website?
Veer Wine Project is our website, but I think if you go to
.com.
veerwineproject.com, Idaho Wine Commission. If you go to their website, they got events for all the wineries, so that's a good spot to go as well.
Definitely.
But yeah, we're still kind of figuring out what we do, and we just.
How's the space? Big space?
Big space.
How many tables you got in there?
We can get 50 in there comfortably, and then we have a big outdoor space too. So once the weather turns, it's a great patio.
There's a patio out there.
Yep.
Not quite on the greenbelt, but just back off.
No, it's we got a nice view of the alley.
Nice.
It's nice though. It is nice.
I like
it's shaded because it's on the north side of the building.
Yeah.
When it's hot out. What else? Yeah, we're
Do you have any munchies or anything out there?
Yeah, we do cheese boards, or cheese plates, and charcuterie, and then if Cobby's is right next to us. If you want to get a sandwich, go grab a sandwich.
Yeah, their sandwiches are good.
And we don't take wine too seriously. Sometimes people are like, "This is a winery." I didn't know what it was. So we have a good vibe, I guess.
I take it seriously, especially when it comes to the orange wine. I really enjoy that. So you're out there in Garden City. You got your place here. What are there any kind of what are the opening? When are you open out here then in Caldwell?
So this spot is just open on Saturdays. For now, noon to 5. We have a little tasting room here. But since we started here, we wanted to keep a presence here.
Yeah, why not? You got the tasting room.
Yeah, and who knows down the road if things are going well, like maybe we want to tasting room on the Indian Creek Plaza here in Caldwell. So
that'd be amazing.
So I don't know. We don't know what we want to do. We just want to make some wine. And
so where can we find Veer Wine Project wines right now?
Best spot's the tasting room. But Boise Co-op Wine Shop has a really good selection of our wines too, and I always invite them whenever we do a spring release or a fall release.
The one in the north end of Boise?
Yeah.
By the original co-op?
Yeah, I always bring them the new wines or have them come to the tasting room so they can taste all the new ones. So
those guys know their wine.
They know their wine.
Yeah. Those guys. So and then it's just been so cool being able to come out and kind of meet with you and talk with you all about your wine, your winery, kind of what you're doing and how different it is. So what do you think is coming up for you guys here at Veer Wine Project? What's next? I know, right? What is next? Well, I think we want to eventually have our own space, so like not leasing anymore. It's nice having these warehouse spaces, but they weren't built to be wineries, so it's always kind of retrofitting. You kidding me? What do you mean?
So it'd be nice to have floors that drain, all that stuff. Eventually it'd be cool to have like an actual production facility that we have, but I don't know. We're pretty happy where we're at. I think we want to get into more of the local restaurants. I think it's super important to partner with these restaurants.
You guys do kegs.
We do. We're starting to do some kegs for restaurants. I think the restaurants, they always, they do a good job promoting local source ingredients. So just adding.
You probably have like a link or something on your website for that, right?
Yeah.
Cool.
So
just go to veerwineproject.com and click on contact us.
Yeah.
Find him.
Well, if you want wine, we'll give it to you.
Yeah, we'll give.
I mean,
sell it.
I will bring it to you.
Pretty fair price.
For money.
Yeah, that's right. Well, Will, thanks a lot for having me out here.
Yeah,
today.
Thanks for coming out.
Awesome tasting your wines. Amazing just getting to know you and getting to see your winery. I think what you're doing is really cool. And we'd be excited to hear anything going on with you or your winery. Just let us know and, we'll come out and we'll talk to you some more, or we'll go to your place in Garden City.
Yeah, I think next time let's meet in Garden City.
Let's do it. All right. Well, thanks very much for being on, Will. Really appreciate it. Thank you for the wine. Very tasty. The orange wine in particular. Really good. Actually, that Tresse, I mean, if you haven't tried, is that Tresse at Co-op?
It's at the Co-op. And it's, they just got it at the Co-op.
Do you know there's a couple places up north that you should probably look into too. There's a Moscow Co-op.
Oh, yeah.
And then there's a place in Coeur d'Alene. I can't remember the name of it right now, but it's an amazing little store where they have a bunch of wines too. So let's try to see if we can't get you up to our friends up north.
I love it.
That's what I'm saying, because we have a lot of listeners up there, and I'm sure they feel a little left out sometimes. That's all right. But thanks a lot for having me.
Well, I guess a plug for Northern Idaho. So my good friend Lane Hewitt, he's one of the winemakers at Revora in Lewiston. Mm-hmm. So I'm actually going to go up there for Labor Day weekend, and we're going to pour Veer wine at their tasting room. So
go and talk to Moscow Co-op while you're up there. They'll take you. They're great, and I used to sell beer to them. They're a really awesome place, just like the Co-op kind of here. A little bit more rustic.
Yeah, we lived in Moscow for a year, but
a little bit more rustic, but that's all right. Rustic is good. So thanks a lot for having me out.
Thanks, Steve.
And we'll be sure to get a nice link up to your website on the show notes that everybody can check out, and make sure you're picking up. Is there any? Can you buy it online? Can you buy your wine online?
Yeah.
Okay,
so you can most states. So
there you go. So we'll just we'll put that link up on the show notes so you can check out that Tresse and these orange wines and everything else that Will has for sale here at the Veer Wine Project. Thank you so much for being on today, and we're going to be right back. We're going to do some Friday night pints with some of this Veer Wine Project wine. We're going to talk about that next on the Idaho Booze Podcast. The holidays are over, but that does not mean giving up on the holiday cheer. And the best way to get to cheer is through beer. And that's why you need a Boise Beer Buddies card. This card and the amazing Boise Beer Buddies app unlock incredible savings at the best restaurants, bars, breweries, and even a bunch of great wineries in Idaho. Many save you $1 or more. Some save you as much as 25% off your whole bill. The best part is you make other beer buddies through Boise Beer Buddies' amazing social media connection pages. Save money on beers you're already buying. Upgrade your cheer and be a buddy by picking up your Boise Beer Buddies card today. Use promo code Idaho Booze at checkout. Get a free card with the purchase of one at BoiseBeerBuddies.com. Welcome back to the Idaho Booze Podcast. How was Will? That guy, what a nice guy. I mean, I cannot believe he went from working as a bartender and a restaurant manager and doing some other stuff that, he did. And I'm sure he was great. He was great as a bartender at Cloud9. And now he's got his own winery, got his own label. He's making amazing wines where he's winning a bunch of awards left, right, and center. What a great dude. It was really awesome chatting with him. And I hope you guys enjoyed it as well, because he's a really, really good dude. And he's the kind of guy that you really want to see succeed kind of in this business. And for Friday Night Pints this week, I'm doing 2 of his wines, 2 of the ones we already talked about in the interview. But I thought it'd be nice to go through them again and kind of talk about him while he's not here, so he's not looking at me the whole time while I'm saying this stuff. It's very awkward sometimes to do that. So anyway, the first one I'm going to do is the 2022 Tresse. This is the red blend that we tried. This is the one that got double platinum and double gold and best red blend from the Idaho Wine Competition. This thing is a powerhouse. I'll say that right now. Right away on the nose, you get big strawberry, big cherry, and just like this little bit of sort of like a mineral quality to it. And then once you dive into that guy and you take a sip, you get this like strawberry, dark cherry, I don't know, you sort of get a little bit of oak, I guess like a spiciness. Oh, you get pepper from the Syrah, and you just get like these really beautiful flavors that sort of come in and they don't all leave. It's not super dry, so they kind of stay on the palate. They really have a well-rounded finish. It's just an awesome wine. I mean, it's aged in New French oak, about 15%. And the restrained use of oak is nice because it doesn't make it super oaky or complicated or anything. And it also means that you can open this thing up right now, or you can lay it down for, a year or two and see what happens to it. This thing it's a great wine. I recommend giving it a try. The 2022 Tresse, I really, really enjoyed this one a lot. And that one is $36, and you can buy that at veer.bottle360.com. And then the next one we had was the 2021 Wren. This is an orange wine. And I am, as you may have got during the interview, I'm kind of into orange wine. I'm kind of into it. I don't know why. It's different. It's got some flavor profiles that you normally don't get from wine that I like as a beer drinker. Like I said, that last one we had smelled just like a Saison. That was kind of wild. This one is a 2021 Ren. I get a lot of like really soft fruit on this one. So it's not like a big, bold cab or anything like that. This is a white wine after all. So I get kind of like this, like a red apple, like maybe like a Honeycrisp apple or a Gala apple, something like that. Not like the big, like normally you get like a Granny Smith apple from white wine. This is much subtler. There's some peach in there. There's some stone fruit, maybe like nectarine, apricot, something like that. And then just a little bit of orange on the nose there. A little bit of orange zest. And then on the flavor, this is what really blows you away is the flavor of this thing. Because you get all these really nice bright flavors of peach and of nectarine and maybe like a little bit, like I said, orange zest, but also that red apple. But it comes and it's gone because it is so dry. So this thing is really dry, really nice and flavorful. It's right kind of in between, I guess, like maybe like between a rosé and like a white wine. I just like it. I think it's awesome. This one's 13.7%. You can buy this at veer.bottle360.com for $26 a bottle. What a deal on the 2021 Ren from Veer Wine Project. This show brought to you by Warren Reserve Cocktail Company. Looking to spice things up in the cocktail department? Try adding a little taste of chili to your next cocktail with Chili Lime Bitters from Warren Reserve. Just 2 drops will give your old-fashioned, whiskey sour, or margarita just the right amount of zing to warm you up in these cold winter months. Want to feel the burn? Just add another 2 drops. Chili Lime Bitters turn a simple Bloody Mary into a beautiful spicy Bloody without adding more mix or booze. Just a couple of drops of Chili Lime Bitters will do ya. Get Chili Lime Bitters at warrenreserve.com, order online, get free delivery, plus save 15% on orders over $40 with my promo code Idaho Booze 25 at checkout. That's warrenreserve.com, Idaho Booze 25 at checkout. Save tons of money on awesome bitters from Warren Reserve Cocktail Company. Welcome back. Let's wrap things up. First off, I want to thank Warren Reserve Cocktail Company for helping us out, sponsoring the show. Really nice, you guys. And man, oh man, do I love what they're doing over there at Warren Reserve. And if you want to pick yourself up some Warren Reserve products for free, we're talking gratis, all you have to do is write in the show, Idaho Booze Pod at gmail.com. Give us a couple recipes for the Warren Reserve Cocktail of the Week. We pick your cocktail, and I'm sending you some free stuff from Warren Reserve. And I'm talking bitters. I'm talking syrups. It's not like a t-shirt. We're talking like real stuff that you're going to want to use here, including some of their amazing syrups. So really good stuff from Warren Reserve. Thank you so much. And check out that cocktail, the Midnight Martini with that Mr. Black coffee liqueur. Pretty good stuff, if I do say so myself. Pretty good. Also want to thank Idaho Brewers United and get on up there to Destination Beer this weekend. In McCall, you have no reason not to. There's no football on this weekend. You got nothing to do. Go up there. Get a ticket from our show notes. You can link to it from there. Get yourself a ticket for Friday or Saturday and have yourself a nice little McCall Mountain weekend up there with Idaho Brewers United and all their fun breweries, like Loose Screw, Mother Earth. Some other guys will be up there. It'll be a lot of fun. Check that out. Also want to thank Treasure Valley Chevron. Great guys over there at Treasure Valley helping us out and still looking to give away some more beef jerky. Get on in there to Treasure Valley Chevron. Take a picture with something weird. Send it in, and we'll send you a big box of jerky. You're going to love it from Treasure Valley Chevron over there on Gowan Road, and then the other one up Highway 55 on your way out to McCall for Destination Beer. See what I did there? Also want to thank Boise Beer Buddies. Stacy, she's really out there making things happen. And if you don't have a Boise Beer Buddies card, I don't know what to do for you. It is really the best way to save on beers all across the Treasure Valley and even up into northern Idaho and eastern Idaho as well. So lots of great locations, lots of great member perks. Awesome card to have. If you don't have it, you really are just kind of a rube. I'm just going to say it how it is. You're kind of a rube. So go get your Boise Beer Buddies card. And once again, you can link to that from the show notes. And you can use my promo code for that, which I think is BoozePod. And you get 2 for 1 on the Boise Beer Buddies card with the promo code BoozePod. And then Warren Reserve, that's Idaho Booze 25 for 15% off, $40 or more when you purchase stuff at warrenreserve.com. That's going to do it for the show. I want to thank Will Wetmore. Thanks so much for being on the show today from Veer Wine Project. If you haven't tried any Veer wine yet, make sure you get out there and try some. You can find it in and around town. You can also order it from him. You can get that Tresse. That thing is awesome. I'm telling you right now, that 2022 Tresse is really, really good. So you're going to want to get that. Maybe try one of the orange wines. If you haven't tried an orange wine yet, maybe order one of those Rennes and see about that Chenin Blanc too. The thing was pretty dope. So lots of good stuff from our friends over at Veer Wine Project and Will Wetmore in particular. Thanks so much for being on the show. And to you, our listeners, thank you so much for listening and for subscribing and for all the things that you do. We really appreciate it. Keep sharing the show, keep subscribing, keep listening. We're going to have a lot more fun on this show coming up. We have a lot of fun and interesting guests, a lot of weird takes from me, and of course, awkward pauses. Got to have those awkward pauses. So thanks very much from the Idaho Booze Pod. I'm Steve Kuntz. Good day and good drinking, everyone.